So to keep things moving along, I'd just like to say that Pastor John will offer a meal prayer, and then we'll get to eating, and then we'll get to listening to some music. So Pastor John. All right, let's help ourselves to some food now. We'll please make your way over to the food. There's tons, so take all you want. And Carrion Crawlers, take it away. We'll listen to some music while we have some food.
Play some music for y'all while y'all eat. This song's called Lips Like That. I get some water on stage? This next song's about a movie called The Outsiders. right, this next song's called Face Melter. No, I do. We all do, right? Alright, 1, 2. Alright. Alright, you ready? Alright. So let's go Face Melter. It goes like this. 1, 2, 3, 4! We got 2 more songs up and then we're out of here. This song's called Gates of Heaven. If you have children, cover their ears. This song has strong language. Motherfucker, won't you please visit me? Won't you please just let me in? Won't you please just let me in?
All right, that was awesome. Thank you so much, Carrion Crawlers. Yeah, here it is, the Carrion Crawlers. All right, so we're actually going to kind of shift gears. We're going to get started with our program here shortly. And again, my name is Murray Lee. I'm the Director of Community Engagement for NDN Collective here in Rapid City. And I just want to welcome you all again to this Protect the HeSapa Teach-In. There's going to be a lot of speakers tonight, a few speakers tonight. They're going to talk a lot about things that are happening, things we're doing, why it's important, why it's really vital that we care about this. Maybe offer some ideas on what we can do to kind of participate in protecting the HeSapa. So it's going to be a really great night of information. And there's going to be a lot to learn. There's going to be time at the very end for some questions. If you guys have questions, hold them till the end. So yeah, we'll get started. But first we have some raffles tonight. So this is the first raffle of the night. So if you have your tickets, get your tickets ready, and I will read the number. All right, if you have your tickets ready, 530104. 530104. And it's for this one-of-a-kind, and it's like a landback flag. 530104. Anybody? 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 530104.
You'll find it when you get home.
All right. Well,
5301.
going once, going twice. Yeah, I need another ticket. Okay, last call, 530104. Last call, last call.
Even way after me. What was the name of that band? Carrion Crawlers. I'm sure there's a story behind it. They're all kind of business. They're not many of us. The food is very good.
All right, here come the tickets. Here come the tickets. Shaking them up like a pro. All right, there you go. Okay, here it is. 530004.
Is that you? Lillian? Oh,
Oh.
my God.
We have a winner. And who you are. All right.
Big, beautiful new garage. Put that up on.
All right, well, we'll get started.
The office.
I'd like to introduce our first speaker of the evening. I'll let him introduce himself, but it's Terrell Ironshell. He's a local organizer with NDN Collective. And Terrell, take it away.
Greetings everyone. I'd first like to start by greeting each and every one of you with a warm and heartfelt handshake. My name is Terrell Ironshell. I'm a local organizer at the NDN Collective. I'm a Oglala Lakota and Eastern Band Cherokee. And I am with the Protect the HeSapa campaign. And so tonight we're just going to be giving you all a little bit of context about some of the mining that's happening in the Black Hills, and just to kind of bring light to this issue that we're facing.
Some young man brought me food. It was so nice.
Bear with me for a second. The story of what's happening here really starts with the treaties that were signed, 1851 and 1868 Fort Laramie treaties. And these treaties essentially gave land, the land that belongs to us. The land was dedicated for the Lakota Nation, and it would allow westward travelers, and it would allow the government to establish roads through Lakota territory. And with that, we also got the nation-to-nation dealings between our leaders and the leaders of the United States. Come 1868, those treaties were changed. One of the things that was changed in these treaties was they brought the bad man clause, which would essentially give the federal government the jurisdiction to prosecute bad men amongst who came onto the Lakota territory. And this treaty was supposed to include food and clothing to those who were living on the now much smaller reservation. The Great Sioux Nation went from the bigger piece of land down to only western South Dakota. And this was also, the 1868 was also supposed to close the Bozeman Trail. And that included the military forts all along the trail. But that trail was reopened in 1876, following the 1874 Black Hills Gold Rush. And so, in 1872, the United States, they authorized this Mining Act of 1872, which essentially governs mining for economic materials such as gold, platinum, silver, and all of this on federal public land. So valuable mineral deposits on land that belongs to the United States government is free and open to exploration and purchase. Notably, this was 4 years, only 4 years after the signing of the 1868 treaty, and so it was still Lakota territory. And so in, saying that the mineral deposits belong to the United States, this was also 17 years before South Dakota even officially became a state. And this law is over 151 years old. There's no environmental protection provisions, and it has never been amended to this day. And so in 1980, we had the Supreme Court weigh in on the case, and they had said that it was a more ripe and rank case of dishonest dealings will never, in all probability, be found in our history. And so, fast forward to more modern times. And so, on the bottom here, you'll see the Homestake mine in Leeds, South Dakota. Largest open pit gold mine in the Western Hemisphere. This former gold mine operated for over 100 years, started in 1877, and was once the largest gold mine in the world. It polluted 18 miles of the Whitewood Creek with arsenic, mercury, lead, among many, many other things. It caused contamination that can be found in 175 miles downstream in the Cheyenne River. And now, the same kind of gold mining, the Gilt Edge Superfund site. It's south of Deadwood in the northern Black Hills. It's a Superfund site because neither the EPA nor the state can stop the acid mine drainage from the mine. It has already cost over $100 million to try to clean up this site. And Agnico Eagle Gold Company has done some work there, and they're actually planning to explore and possibly re-mine on the Superfund site. That would make the environmental disaster at Gilt Edge way worse than it already is. Here in our beautiful Black Hills, 1 in 5 acres of land are under mining claims. 293,000 acres are under some kind of mining claim, and that's just under 20% of the entire Black Hills. And 121,000 of that has been added since April of 2022. What does 1 in 5 acres of land actually look like? So here is 5 acres of land, and in the red, that is approximately 1 acre. So think about this in the Black Hills. You're driving 5 acres and you look, just a fifth of everything that you'll see in this little area is under a mining claim of some kind in the Black Hills. So who is affected by all of this? Rapid City residents, we get our water from the Pactola Reservoir. In 2021, 76,000 residents of Black Hill, Rapid City, and this would just wreak havoc on our local ecosystems. It also affects the local farmers and ranchers. It affects their families and being able to drink clean water, cattle and livestock, their crops, all of these things that depend on clean water. These families, they depend on this water for their livelihood. As well as all of the residents downstream, all of the tribal communities. It's over 100,000 people that live downstream. And Ellsworth Air Force Base, there's 3,000 plus members there, with over 700 plus civilian employees and their families. And the Air Force is already dealing with, not even being able to drink the water on their bases. Just an honorable mention, you may have seen on the stage, the Black Hills Mountain Snail. This little guy is endemic to the Black Hills Forest. It is only found here. It is rare and critically imperiled. In 1993, 30 years ago, it was recommended for listing under the Endangered Species Act, and in those 30 years, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has yet to move forward on protecting this. How does this affect our daily lives here? The contamination of our local drinking water source, Pactola, not only a fun place to swim, but also where we get our drinking water from. We start to face things like water restrictions, meaning less water for our crops, for our livestock, for drinking, just stuff like that. As well as the shutting down of public areas for mining claims, recreation sites, camping places, just beautiful places in nature that people like to be. What else could this look like? Foreign mining companies, coming into our land and owning local water rights. as well as, water, again, on the Air Force Base being undrinkable. What can we do now, to protect the Pactola reservoir? There's still time to act. We have been really advocating for this mineral withdrawal that the U.S. Forest Service and the Bureau of Land Management proposed. It would protect future mining and drilling exploration for up to 20 years. So that's not including, the stuff that's already going forth. It would only stop the future projects. It would cover 20,000 acres of land, but that's only here in South Dakota. So we are actually asking and advocating for them to expand the range to include the Black Hills in Wyoming, because it's not just the Black Hills here in South Dakota that we, are sacred to us. We would like them to cover the whole thing. That is the presentation that I have for you all this evening. There's going to be much more context.
We'll answer questions at the end. We'll take questions at the end of the presentation.
But I drink out of that water.
Yeah,
When I wake up thirsty, when I wake up underneath my bridge, I drink that water. Because I'm thirsty. But I want to know if I'm alright. But if I'm not, I just know. And it's not my fault, it's theirs.
yeah.
Luck come the way we drink out of water, right? I drink out of that water.
Yeah, so the Pactola Reservoir provides the drinking water for all of Rapid City. So everybody in this room, this water that we're drinking here tonight came from Pactola Reservoir. Now I will pass it back over to Murray. I believe we have another raffle going. And thank you.
All right. Thank you all so much for that information. And it's interesting to learn about all that. I mean, a lot of us already know all of this extractive mindset that people have had on our sacred lands, and then learning that it hasn't changed. 151 years, and it hasn't changed. This act created before there was an EPA, before there was a state of South Dakota, all to extract gold, all to extract resources. And it's maddening because it pollutes the earth, it pollutes the water, and it's why everybody should care. It's why everybody should care, because it doesn't just affect certain people. Companies come in, they make a ton of money, they leave. And the ground is polluted, the water is polluted, and it's that way for generations. Because it doesn't just go away. You can't put a pile of dirt on it and oh, it's great, we're good now. It doesn't work like that. So it's really great to learn all this and to really kind of have that, I guess, ammunition to be able to talk to people about it. If they ask you, well, what's this? Protect the HeSapa, what's that all about? And you can say, well, it's about protecting the earth, it's about protecting water. But yeah, so we'll keep going. The next raffle is for another landback flag. So get your tickets out. The number for this one is 530030. 530030. All right, we have a winner. Another one of a kind landback flag. So yeah, I'd like to introduce our next speaker of the night, Mr. Mark Gilson. He'll be talking about the mineral withdrawal. So with that, I'll let Mark take it away.
Good evening, everyone. It was my choice to invite the Carrion Crawlers here, so if you have blown out eardrums, you know who to blame. They're one of my favorite bands. They're based out of Kyle, South Dakota. They're punk rock historians with their own take on the genre, and I truly believe they're going to be famous one day. So we all got to see them here before that happens. when I'm not acting as an ad hoc band promoter, I work for NDN Collective on the Protect the HeSapa campaign. Right now, as we've seen from this presentation, we're seeing, and if you look at the maps that have come with your registration, 1 out of 5 acreage of the Black Hills in the National Forest is under attack. Is actually has mining claims on it. Right now, we've had a really interesting moment in time. Earlier this spring, there was a gold company, F4 Gold, was in Custer, South Dakota. Excuse me, F3 Gold, my bad. They haven't gotten there yet. F3 Gold. They proposed on creating a gold mine right in the water supply of Custer, South Dakota. And there was a meeting that was people expected to have about 10 folks there. And the same group of environmentalists and activists and a couple of busybodies that show up to every single meeting. And they were expecting to rubber stamp this. And that didn't happen. Hundreds of people packed into this little room, shoulder to shoulder, utterly and completely outraged that the Forest Service was ready to sell out their drinking water to a gold company. Now, this amazing outcry of opposition sent out shockwaves throughout their ecosystem. And one of the things that kind of came down from it was a moment where they were looking at protecting the water supply of the Black Hills. Now, right now, the proposed mineral withdrawal is an effective mining ban on new mines. What this means is there's a portion of the watershed and a portion of Pactola reservoir that you cannot have new mines opened up on. What we need to happen is for an expansion for the entirety of Pactola and all of the Rapid Creek watershed. And one of the things that we're attempting to even do one better on that is we're attempting to open up expand the mineral withdrawal to the entirety of the Black Hills. But we need help. We need to put pressure on our tribal governments. Believe it or not, our tribal governments, the IRA governments, have a huge amount of say in this. The federal government has a fiduciary responsibility, meaning because of our treaty rights, because of our history, because of the battles that were fought, they have a responsibility that is activated once the tribes voice their opinions legally. They have to create a response and factor that in to their policies moving forward. Now, sometimes it's a little bit difficult for me because I don't inherently believe in the federal government. And I also look at as our tribal governments as a placeholder for a future traditional governance that will one day be rebuilt. But this is a pragmatic tool that we can utilize to protect our water. And when we're talking about who drinks this water, it's all of Rapid City, it's Ellsworth Air Force Base, and it's folks all the way down in Pine Ridge, and it's all the folks who are downstream. As a poet, I love to wax poetically about this, and there is something incredibly beautiful and sacred about the water of the Black Hills. We come from a spot that is incredibly unique. It's some of the most ancient land in the entire continent. There's underground cave systems and little contributaries, and most of the type of different rocks that can be found here. This was once ancient seabed. It was also once volcanic. It's also the highest point between the Rockies and the Alps. So looking at our land and our water is a way of looking throughout history and time. And on our sacred sites, in the HeSapa, down in Wind Cave, they have some of the purest water in the world. And this is our goal, is to not just have fight tooth and nail, policy on policy, fighting mine by mine, but we want to protect the entirety of the Black Hills. Not just for ourselves and our future generations, but for the plants, for the animals, and for all of our relatives. Now, that being said, I gotta look at my notes and kind of get back on point about this mineral withdrawal we're facing. There was a public comment period from the United States Forest Service back in June, that wrapped in back in June. Now, from that public comment period, moving forward, it appears to be that they're going to be looking for comments on an environmental assessment. There's just so many different fights going on, sometimes it's a little bit difficult to keep it all straight in your head. Now, this environmental assessment will hopefully speed up the process of this proposed mineral withdrawal. What we need from all of you is, when the public comment period opens again, we need you to articulate the reason why you would want a ban on mining operations in the Black Hills. We need you to advocate for expanding this mineral withdrawal. And we also need you to reach out to your representatives in tribal government, at the district level, in council, and especially the tribal chairs and vice chairs. We need you to reach out to them and talk and get them to support this mineral withdrawal and expanding it to all of the Black Hills. Thank you, gentlemen. This Buffalo Road had a little bit of a journey today. Went missing, and we spent a lot of time tracking her down. I'm glad that we're doing this. I'm glad that we're giving away a road. It feels like traditional, just very epic. Yeah, I think for the mineral withdrawal, that's kind of where we're at. Part of our team was in Washington, D.C. about a month ago for impact days, where people were meeting directly with our leaders. And Taylor Gunhammer said, respectfully, addressed the author of the mineral withdrawal, and very clearly and directly stated that it doesn't do its job, that it's not good enough, that even if this mineral withdrawal passes, has its shape right now, it will not actually protect our water. And their response was, they fought for the mineral withdrawal they thought they could get, not the one that we need. So we're in a case where, yes, this is an amazing, powerful, and beautiful thing, and we need to push it, make it bigger, and make it more. Now, for Lakota people, our treaty rights should automatically guarantee this. There's also something called the Winters Doctrine, which guarantees our tribal communities continued use of their ancestral waters. These are decent arguments to use as we invoke and create our public comments going forward. And you would think, if it wasn't for, you'd think the 1868 treaty would be enough. You'd think that after all that we fought for, that we wouldn't have to go through these processes again, and again. So I suppose I'm asking you to have a little bit of faith in the process, and having a little trust in us as we're trying to take on this issue. I want to acknowledge that we actually are not the first people to be doing this, and that we can't do it alone, and we're not doing it alone. That we have the prayers of everyone here, we have the backing of our ancestors, and we have our partners here. I just want to honor a couple of members from the Black Hills Alliance. Bruce, Lilius, my dad, if you're still here, could you guys please stand up? If there's anybody else from the old Black Hills Alliance. I missed one of our police over in back. I apologize. The generation before us fought against uranium mining in the Black Hills. They fought against heavy weapons being tested in our sacred sites. And they won these battles. And they put them to bed for an entire generation. And now it's up to us to keep the charge and to keep this fight going. Stay tuned. The fight continues, and we will be in touch. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mark. That's really wonderful, and it's so true. Collectively, we can all make a difference. We can all keep pushing this, and eventually it may become what it needs to be, not just what they think they can pass. So thank you again, Mark. Now it's time for another raffle. Time for another raffle for a landback flag. So we got your tickets ready? 530081. 530081. Last call, 530081. Anybody? Okay, all right. Next ticket, 530005. 530, all right. We have a winner in the back. All right, I will. I'll bring it to you, and then we'll get on to our next speaker. So bear with me. All right, so we're going to continue on with our program tonight. Now, this next person, honestly, likely needs no introduction. He's been fighting to protect the land for decades, done so much work. It's just really my honor and privilege to welcome Bruce Ellison.
Good evening, everybody. It's so wonderful to look out on a crowd of people who, I think, over the generations, I see grandchildren and great-grandchildren and parents and grandparents who were once my age when we were younger. And it's just really wonderful to see all the different generations here. Because it's going to take all of us and all of our generations, and it's a multi-generational fight, it has been. I'm going to be talking a lot about, mostly about one of the ways that we are trying to deal with the expansion of mining within at least Pennington County, because we're dealing with talking about the Pennington County Commission. But I want to back up just a little bit about a couple of things. A lot of talk about the mineral withdrawal, and it's been wonderful, and I really appreciate hearing what everybody had to say in the explanations of it. One thing I would just like to add is, as we think of the water, because there was a man here who talked about drinking out of the creek when he wakes up in the morning. That water, as we know, goes all the way up to what's called Pactola Reservoir. That goes all the way up to what's called Deerfield Reservoir, and goes up beyond that to the headwaters. some of which run independently down into the Pactola area. The proposed mining withdrawal as it is right now, the 20,000 acres, only covers an area slightly above Lake Pactola. It's like if you had a barrel of, you want to make sure that barrel of water is clean water, but all you didn't take care about whether the water you poured into it was clean or contaminated with mining solution or other contaminants. So this mineral withdrawal does not go far enough because it doesn't go up to the headwaters. We've got to go all the way up and all the way down if we're really going to protect everything that we need in order to survive as living things in this area. And I also want to just briefly talk a little bit about some of the history. You know, you all are probably familiar with this guy, Custer, right? And Custer, when gold was discovered, that began the process of what do you do when you have people who are connected spiritually in all ways to a place of land that you want to mine? You have to separate them from that place of worship. You have to separate them, if necessary, extinguish them. And we know what happened after that gold was discovered in 1874 and the rushes that came after that. What we're dealing with now is a gold rush, a uranium mining rush, a so-called rare earth mineral rush. The last time we saw anything like this was in the 1970s. And the uranium operations actually started in the late 50s. And in fact, my understanding is that some of the uranium that was mined out of the Edgemont area was used to make the first atomic bombs. Because that was a government research uranium mining milling project. One of the things that I remember, I got here in 1975, fresh out of law school, and one of the first things I started hearing about was about these plans that had been developed by the mineral industry to basically mine the Black Hills. The Union of Concerned Scientists said that you could start at the west bank of the Missouri River and mine all the way to the Bighorns and take everything. This area they refer to then as a potential national sacrifice area. And that's what they're going to make if we don't prevent that. In the 1970s, some 27 multinational corporations came in and basically divided up the Black Hills for themselves, mostly around uranium at that time, still the gold operations that were going on. One of the things that I remember in reviewing FBI documents about Leonard Peltier's case and the American Indian movement in general was that in the mid-70s, the FBI referred to the American Indian movement as one of the most dangerous organizations in the country. And one of the reasons why they did so is they noted a new goal that AIM was asserting, and that was to stop destructive mining and protect the earth. And for some reason, that additional goal seemed to elevate AIM into a higher category of the shit list than it had been previously. And I also remember from that time period that talking to a neighbor of mine who was working in one of the uranium mining company offices here. And one of the things that he said was kind of interesting because at that time you heard about the Black Hills Alliance. You know, those of us who grew up around AIM, you know, from adulthood or whenever we started that process, you know, that there was this perception that AIM was really a danger. And who was it a danger to? Well, this person who worked in the uranium mining office told me he overheard conversation that said, by corporate people saying, you know, we thought that once we dealt with AIM, we wouldn't have any more problems. And then they started talking about the Black Hills Alliance, which was really, like I said, the children of AIM, anyways, of our AIM upbringing, helped create that organization. And now has morphed into many other things with all of the peoples in the area in an effort to try and work together to try and resist this. Now we know that that uranium mine didn't happen in the 70s. But the companies were, you know, pretty busy. They modified the laws in the state legislature to prevent serious state oversight of uranium mining. They might try and do the same thing again with gold mining. They might try to do the same thing with rare earth mining. One of the things that I learned is, working with parents and grandparents and great-grandparents, I have the pleasure of understanding not only greater things about the interrelationship between all of life, but the concept that resistance must be total. And that means that, as I learned it, that we try every means that is either available or that we can make available to resist any aspect of their encroaching here, to do what they want to do out of greed. That's all they want to do it for. Out of greed, that disease that makes human beings into not acting very humane. So in this process of trying to take a total approach, we've challenged permits, whether it be the KXL permit, and at the state level and other forms too. And if there are mining permits that are applied for, we'll probably try and resist some. And then we're out human, out resourced in terms of being able to challenge all of the permits and amendments that are starting right at this particular point. But one of the things that I've learned is that, and it was mentioned before, about the system, can we trust it? Of course, we can trust it to do one thing. We can trust it to do what it's meant to do, which is to serve those that would exploit everything. And that we are either resources or in the way. But one of the things that we can do, as I said, in that resistance that's been opened up to us, is in Pennington County. Pennington County has a zoning ordinance. Through a zoning ordinance, it has the state law right to set up ordinances to protect our water resources. And the problem that the county is having is it doesn't believe it, doesn't want to accept that it has that authority, and is being advised up to this point by the state's attorney's office that it has virtually no authority at all beyond what the state is willing to do. And the state isn't willing to do anything in reality. Even when they give us a hearing, you can see that nobody's listening. You can see that their minds are made up before we even walk in, before the first person has spoken, and before they watch any evidence at all. But with this county ordinance, if the county can become convinced that this is an important enough issue for the people here, because they started meeting the first Tuesday every month. They meet twice a month. First Tuesday, and I think the third Tuesday every month. The first Tuesday they have decided is going to be for discussions of a Hard Rock Mining Ordinance. What so far has been proposed to them is a almost 30-page document in an effort to compile the Lawrence County mining ordinance, other mining ordinances, permits, studies that were done, because if we can convince those county people not only that they have the authority, but they have the responsibility to this generation and future generation to do their job and protect our water. It's about the only way that a county, but it has a lot of authority in this sense, if it wants to. If we convince them, if we make them do this. If the county passes a detailed mining ordinance that the companies can't meet, they may not be able to get a permit open. So this is something that can throw a potential real cog. Now, one of the things that I noted with the proposals for mining ordinances that have been there so far, they left out a lot of things. So one of the things that I'm going to suggest is now at least part of a proposal. It's only one. But it requires that there be a cultural resource study. It requires that there be detailed consultation with the 16 tribes that the Forest Service agreed to back in the Yellow Thunder Camp days to be required to be involved in any major federal project. Now, this is a county project. This is a state project. This only applies to state lands. But to have this in here would be the first time that they would even take note that they have to address the issue of what I understand are an uncountable number of your ancestors, not mine, I'm first generation, but your ancestors all around this area. You know, we're talking about the area from HeSapa all the way down to Pactola. And I've talked to people who've worked on some of the exploration stuff, and they told me they've seen this or they've seen that, and they've been told not to say anything. So here we have a chance, and I'm gonna, you know, with lawyers you have to shut up sometimes. So I'm gonna kind of close now, but I just wanted to give you that like little bit of historical oversight, but really not to underestimate. You know, if there's 4 or 5 of us at that meeting on every Tuesday, it's not the same thing as if there are 50 or 100. And we need to be there, because otherwise they won't care. They're going to try not to care anyway. So, you know, it was mentioned before about some of the major projects. There have been a lot of major projects. The Etsy project, other projects have been tried since the 70s. KXL and other mining projects, and they haven't worked. We can do this. And we can do this together, but it's going to be a fight like we've never had before, because as we know, and it's just like I said, it's always been, right? It's always about survival. So, but together I know we can do this. So thank you for your time.
All right, thank you for that, Bruce. It's time now for another raffle, for another landback flag. So if you get your tickets out, 530-063.
Closer to me, I'm
530-063. Yeah, go. Okay, we're going to keep on rolling. Our next speaker tonight is Taylor Dunhammer. He'll be speaking on mining in the HeSapa and landback. So without any further ado, Taylor.
So we need to go to county commissioner meeting.
Oh, Dr. Good to see you all. Thank you so much, all of you, for coming here. That's really, really beautiful. And that was awesome just now when we were having a raffle and somebody yelled, bingo. That's why I do this stuff. It's moments like that. And also anti-mining and stuff. All right, so my name is Taylor Dunhammer. I'm a local organizer with NDN Collective, and I work primarily on our Protect the HeSapa campaign. So what I wanted to talk to you all about today is the connection between mining in HeSapa and landback. So let's just jump right into it. Let's get weird. The colonization of the Black Hills and the attempted genocide of its people is inextricably tied to mining. Mining was the catalyst for the military violence and land grabs that have forced us and the land to our present condition, wherein the United States and the state of South Dakota carry out willful violations of constitutional and tribal treaty rights every single day. Granted, there are now various non-mining business interests in the Black Hills who are against the honoring of treaties with tribes for their own economic reasons. But each and every one of them have illegal mining on treaty land to thank for that opportunity since 1872. In fact, the process of illegal resource colonization that unfolded here has informed all extractive policy in the United States up to the present day. And while all anti-mining organizing is difficult and opposed by extremely wealthy interests and can in fact be dangerous, in the HeSapa, we are not simply in a fight to protect water. Here, we are also required to bear the weight of over 150 years of colonial violence and theft being rebranded as Pioneer History, to the point that many of this area's most prominent tourist attractions are celebrations of the mining operations that began, grew, and reinforced the oppression of its indigenous peoples. Unverifiable reports of gold in the Black Hills began in the early 1800s, but they remained largely in the realm of speculation, anecdote, and rumor throughout the early days of westward U.S. expansion. 1868 saw the signing of the current draft of the Fort Laramie Treaty, which set aside the HeSapa for the exclusive use of Oceti-Sakowin peoples, but interest in illegal gold prospecting and mining by encroaching settlers began increasing as soon as 1869. And as the popularity and profitability of these criminal activities increased still further, they created a political climate that ushered in the General Mining Act of 1872, which officially mandated the administrative framework for this prospecting and extraction on treaty lands, despite it being illegal. According to the Congressional Research Service, the primary purposes of the 1872 law were to promote mineral exploration and development on federal lands in the western United States, offer an opportunity to obtain clear title to mines already being worked, and to help settle the West. 1874 marked the beginning of Custer's expedition to the Black Hills, which created the gold hysteria that brought about a subsequent gold rush and the Great Sioux War of 1876. It was at this point that the ideological component of attempting to subjugate this area's indigenous peoples in general, as opposed to strictly seeking to exploit the natural resources, became the philosophical focus for the U.S. government. And finally, the Black Hills Act of 1877 signified the official administrative theft of the Black Hills from Oceti-Sakowin peoples and made permanent the reservation system which defines much of life in Indian country to this day. In a cultural sense, the mining industry in HeSapa actually spent a very short time being about pure greed. And although resource theft was the catalyst of the situation, the wealth they created quickly shifted into being a self-awarded prize for performing settler violence. And all told, the dynamic graduated in just a few short years via military violence and anti-indigenous federal policy to being also a proxy for white supremacy, manifest destiny, and the promise of plentiful Indian land that could be occupied exclusively by white settlers. Flashing forward in history to the late 1970s and the formation of the Black Hills Alliance, we have the outrageous benefit and luxury of a successful model for repelling the extractive impulse of settler colonialism in the HeSapa. As the field of nuclear energy expanded, it became hungry for more and more uranium, bringing a wave of prospectors looking to once again designate sacred indigenous lands as sacrifice zones for the so-called progress of the settler colonial project. A brave and diverse coalition of people organized themselves to successfully oppose this push for uranium mining through public education, media production, and mass gatherings that activated thousands of individuals toward lifetimes of environmental advocacy. Real quick, if we could have one more round of applause for the Black Hills Alliance. Now, a large part of why the Black Hills Alliance in the 70s and 80s was so impactful is that it began to threaten the fortification that white supremacy and environmental racism had been providing for illegal mining in HeSapa. There was a moment where settler and native interests were aligned in the understanding that no one wants uranium in their drinking water, and uranium mining causes that. In a moment of historic clarity, non-native community members who did not stand to financially profit from the mining that would destroy their own drinking water came to recognize that their survival is tied irrevocably to the people who have always held the lands they now occupy as sacred. All at once, being opposed to Indians in general was deprioritized and even thought of as self-harming. And as Mark Tilson discussed earlier about the big meeting in Custer, it happened again. The same thing. To hate Indians and try to harm Indians became to harm yourself. It was the simple fact of the situation, because that is what mining does. And we now face another incarnation of that lust for mineral extraction that has kept the HeSapa in the crosshairs of American power for over 150 years. This comes in the form of a Biden administration mandate to increase domestic lithium mining, which has triggered another rush of mining claims in the Black Hills to the tune of 121,000 acres just since April of 22, which brings the figure up to the 293,000 acres, or 20% of the Black Hills total that Terrell mentioned, despite every last one of those acres being rightful treaty land of the Oceti-Sakowin. Obviously, our history of resistance enables us to recognize the danger to the land, water, and air this latest mineral frenzy is posing. And we recognize the horrific exacerbation of human climate impact that occurs from all phases and processes of lithium extraction. But because of that history, I also see opportunity, namely an opportunity to use the organizing and momentum building tools we've acquired to this point in our struggle for the purpose of compelling the U.S. government to honor its treaties with indigenous nations and return control of all illegally seized and occupied treaty lands to the tribes. Because Oceti-Sakowin peoples are this land, which we made very clear upon contact with settlers, it is a mistake to consider anti-mining work in the Black Hills to be a purely ecological fight. While greed always was and still is a factor in the continuance of mining operations on our sacred lands, there's a governmental philosophy beyond capitalism that guides the decision of American officials to this day. In terms of federal policy, to harm, degrade, subjugate, scar, and exploit Indian land is to treat it like an Indian. And if we notice the face on a $20 bill or a $5 bill, if we take note of the honoring and celebration of George A. Custer that happens here, it should be well understood that to be anti-Indian is to be seen as supremely American. And when it comes to mining, that notion translates rather easily. So if we are to be effective in organizing ourselves against the dangers of mining in HeSapa, we cannot fail to recognize that focusing solely on environmental health is not enough. Whether or not we're aware of it, anti-mining work is landback work. Because the 1872 General Mining Act is a targeted violation of the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty, I believe that successfully removing the boot of mining from our necks makes the honoring of our treaty rights inevitable. And of course, this is terrifying to extraction companies and devout racists. But the closer Oceti-Sakowin peoples get to justice, the closer we all are to surviving the ecological impacts of a mining industry that's eager to ravage HeSapa and leave a poisonous gravel pile where it used to be. We've learned, thanks to these heroes who did this work before I was born, how to fight endlessly to protect land and water from the dangers of mining. We've learned how to stay connected to the fight constantly, and we've trained ourselves to pivot and repel wave after wave, to wage battle after battle in order for the land and water to survive another day. And we will sustain those efforts in full. But if what we ultimately wish to do is end the war with a victory for Unchimaka, to finally win, landback is the path. It is also my personal belief that unraveling the tangled knot of racist and illegal mining policy in this country is a path to landback, largely because of the implications of challenging the 1872 mining law. Now here's some fun facts that inform these opinions. Indigenous peoples protect 80% of the remaining biodiversity on Earth, despite occupying only 15% of its landmass. There's also the fact that the White House Council on Environmental Quality has released a memo that calls for the traditional ecological knowledge of indigenous peoples to be the guiding framework for mitigating and surviving climate change. This amounts to federal and scientific recognition of the fact that we have always been the stewards of this land and should be in the future. I would ask us to also consider that 79% of known lithium deposits in the United States are within 35 miles of an Indian reservation. In this recent call for increased lithium mining, we can observe that exact same process of targeting vulnerable indigenous communities gearing up to play out as the latest wave of resource colonization by the federal government. And the creation of the 1872 mining law, that is, the opening of the Black Hills to theft by the United States from the Oceti-Sakowin, has served as the framework for all of America's federal extraction policy, which we see borne out in the Mineral Leasing Act of 1920, which applies the same rubric of stealing and destroying indigenous lands as the 1872 law, but for oil and gas leasing. So I'm going to start to wrap this up now. And if you take away one thing from this long, boring speech, let it be that if your concern is landback, you need to support anti-mining work. And if your concern is anti-mining work, you need to support landback, because each makes the other better and stronger, and it's how we fucking win.
All right, thank you for that, Taylor. A lot of really important information. Okay, time for another land back flag raffle. So, and then we'll get on with our next speaker. You got your tickets ready. 530109. Oh, all right, got a winner. Hey Taylor, can you give me a hand here? Oh, no, we don't need a hand, Taylor. Don't need a hand. All right, now we'll have another speaker. I'd like to welcome Regina Dubray, who will talk for a few minutes about. Oh, Regina Brave. Apologies.
Todos somos así. Regina Brave, mucha glória chata mais his side. Okay, I'm a treaty person. I was raised on the treaty by my father and my grandfather. I didn't have any brothers in the family, so they taught me everything they knew. And one of the first things they told me was the Lakota people were really strong warriors. They beat the United States in 2 wars. And what happened was the United States came and wanted a treaty between the United States and our people. So plans were made to go to Fort Laramie. Commissioners were told to give the Lakota everything they wanted. What we're carrying around right now is a generic treaty. You read it 2 or 3 times, you think about it. You will know, especially you Lakota people, that treaty is not what our people wanted. They were going to only allow the United States to to dig for gold for a certain time. That was it. But one of the speakers said, and they kept that first line, that this land was supposed to be for the exclusive and undisturbed use by the Ocheti-Shakoni. Ocheti-Shakoni is our nation. And this involves all 7 reservations, which are actually prison camps. When the treaty was signed in 1868, what Red Cloud wanted, and I don't particularly say Red Cloud in this kind of speeches, Mahbialuta. He sent my great-grandfather, Ohitika, to Fort Laramie. And Indian time is you go ahead and meet with whoever you're going to be dealing with or working with or wanting to sign a treaty in this instant. And he talked to all of them and told them that Mahbialuta wanted a country of our own, a nation, a sovereign nation. Because wagon trains were going west and our people never saw any wagon trains going back east. So he knew there were more people out here than there was that numbered his people. And we are a large tribe. So in 1868, they wanted them to only dig for gold for a certain time, because every nation has to have a gold base in order to make that paper money. Right here in the future, it's coming up now, that they're required to carry a card when they're purchasing anything. That paper is beginning to become useless. In other words, the United States does not have any gold to base that paper on. So what happened then was our people wanted to, and one of the things they said, when they allowed the United States to come and dig for gold, that half of that gold would automatically be placed in special appropriations for our 7th generation. 7th generations are my daughters, my sons, and you guys who are as old as I am. They're here. They're sitting here listening. We'll say for them. And our ancestors were very intelligent in their thoughts about the 7th generation. Those are our ancestors. They didn't understand the language, English, and they depended on our own people at that time to think about what's going to happen to our people. So they declared war on the United States after he laid out the treaty territory. So the coal territory, all the rivers are inside of the sovereign nation. So when you're talking about mining, lithium and everything else, I would advise you to take a treaty stand. A treaty stand, 1868, is a nation-to-nation peace treaty. The United States wanted peace because we had good warriors that protected our people. So when the treaty was signed, the commissioners were told to, like I said, everything they wanted. That's one of them. But the United States wanted peace inserted in the 1868 treaty. It's the only treaty that is, out of 374 treaties that were ratified by Congress, the Fort Laramie Treaty of 1868 is the only nation-to-nation peace treaty. The United States wanted peace inserted in there. So we're a nation, a sovereign nation. Look at the original map. Look how much was stolen from us. Oh yeah, people said they bought the land. Okay, take your bucket and take what you want behind you. Because the next issue that we have, and you're addressing it, and we knew that from the 70s, not only about the food shortage, the overpopulation, the contamination, the sicknesses caused by the extraction from Mother Nature. But those elements, or those minerals, were used when they took them out of the ground without removing anything out of them, would have never caused the pollution. Think about that one. Think about the oil. If it wasn't refined, if that's what it refined, we wouldn't have contamination in our air. We knew that too, because our people actually used uranium for medicine in its natural form, properties, for things that we, or the Washidu, contaminated us with. And the other thing is, after the treaty was signed, on the way back to wherever they came from, they stopped and inserted some language into that treaty to make it look like, I mean, they changed it. They changed it. Look at that treaty, generic treaty. Read it. We wanted people to come over. Come to us, the seventh generation, with the teachers, the doctors, use the gold to build hospitals and schools. And once we learned all these things, they could go back where they came from, because we would only hire these people to help us. Because of the treaty, exclusive and undisturbed use. And we would all have them full-bloods. That's another thing. We talk about manifest destiny. That's a part of it. We talk about the mining. They bypass our people. They're supposed to consult with our people before they even start mining. We say no, you have to shut down. 2 people wrote a resolution back in 2010, brought it before the Laws and Tribal Council. 2 people writing a resolution against Dewey Burdock mining. It passed. So we shut Dewey Burdock down. But it's back again. And I see some of the people that always show up at these protests, and we're talking about what to do, how to shut it off. Only a handful. Well, my daughter's one of them. So I come to Rapid City. I work with her and the people she works with. One of the things I need to see is for all of you fighting for the same thing, to get together and work together and use a treaty. Take a treaty stand. Out of 374 treaties that were ratified. Remember that. Ordinary Treaty of 1868 is a nation to nation. Peace treaty. Peace. Remember that one. 1876, what happened? The United States violated that treaty. They never had any intention of keeping that treaty. They were supposed to come and wipe out all of the men, women, children, our dogs, our horses. Genocide, mass genocide. They never had any intention of keeping that treaty. Why do you think they came and said, give the Indians everything they want? The original treaty is was locked up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. The original treaty that was translated by French people or people who understand the Dakota. One of these days, maybe someone will bring that treaty out. For now, what they're doing is take a treaty stand on it. We're sovereign. We're a nation. We need to do that from here on. Work directly with NDN and whatever other people are working on within the Black Hills. And support them. If you don't know anything, come to meetings like this. Get together. Get to know more. We have to shut down the people. Our mother is dying. Our Mother Earth is dying. You see all the things that happened throughout the United States over this last few months. The floods, the hurricanes, everything that came to be was already prophesied a long time ago. But it was up to us to remember her. She who gave us everything that we needed to survive on. We need to look at that more closely. We want to shut it down, use the treaty. It's still valid. The United States continues to violate it by passing acts of Congress, passing the laws, and South Dakota becoming a state in 1889 in violation of that treaty. The United States never intended for the indigenous to be alive when they came to this country. When you colonize, you annihilate the inhabitants. Remember that. Still happening. We cannot allow genocide. Again. Hang on to your people. Help each other. Set aside your petty differences. Stand together. We don't have to like each other, but I love my people. I love my people for what they're doing. And for what you're all here for. I hope you take it home. Tell it to other people. Remember the treaty. State of South Dakota is in violation. Keep that in mind too, when our people are getting arrested. Take a treaty stand. My son and I got arrested at Standing Rock. We took a treaty stand. To this day, they're trying to dig around all over the country to see what they could charge us with. And judges keep throwing it out. Because one of the things, United States Constitution, Article 6, Section 2, read it very carefully, copy it down, put it on posters. The judges, law enforcement, representatives, people in office have to honor that treaty. You get arrested. Get a piece of paper that says Treaty 1860, nation to nation. You can't stop you. That's the people on the Mexican reservation who fought the United States. They fought jurisdiction against the state of South Dakota. And went all the way to the Supreme Court. And it did take money for us to go door to door to inform people what we were doing. 2 women, 2 men that were together. And then we turned it over to the tribal law, tribal attorney. And the Yankee Sioux tribe used it. Take a treaty stand. And we won. So within the original boundaries of the Yankee Sioux reservation, the tribe has jurisdiction. No matter how many people built houses there, bought land, or have businesses, the tribe still has jurisdiction. Thank you for listening.
much, Regina. A lot of important information tonight. Just a wealth of information, a wealth of knowledge, and it really kind of informs us the fact that we have all these tools at our disposal, whether it's understanding the history of why things are the way they are, the treaties, greed, what we can do collectively together. Everything from being more than one voice, or two voices, or three voices, or five voices in county commissioners meetings, showing up in spaces where we can have a voice and say that this is not what we want, it's not what's right for Mother Earth. So I want to thank again the speakers we've heard so far for all the information that they shared, and for all the tools that they've helped me become aware of, and for all of you for being here as well. But for now, I've got a raffle for a landback flag. But one more raffle, then we'll have some Q&A, and then another speaker, and then our final raffle for this Buffalo Road that we've been looking at all evening. So if you have your tickets, it's 530-019. 530-019. Oh, all right. All right. So for now, we're going to open up an opportunity for some Q&A. If you had questions that you had made notes of, and you listened to the different speakers, now's the time. Now's the time to
Yes, Ernestine.
Okay, just a second. Let me bring this up. Everybody can hear the question, and I might be doing a little back and forth, but that's okay. We'll get through it.
Okay, one of the speakers mentioned getting the tribes involved in protecting the Black Hills. But all of us living here in Rapid City, we know how difficult it is to get the tribes involved with things that don't have to do with issues that they deal with on the reservation. So you propose getting the tribes involved. I'd like to know exactly how you would go about doing that, because in my experience, like I said, those of us living here in Rapid City, we're the red-headed stepchildren of the tribe. We don't get any benefits. We get health care, which is a good thing, but as far as the difference between living on the reservation and living here, it doesn't appear to me that the tribes are real interested in issues outside of the reservation. So my question is, how would you get them involved?
That is an excellent question. And there's nothing wrong with redheaded stepchildren. What I will say is, for our tribal governments, like literally just calling them, like making Facebook posts, talking to the representatives that we do know, and talking to our relatives. This is an issue that affects the reservations as much as it affects us here in Rapid. If you're talking about Rosebud and Pine Ridge, if you look at the ecological, the way the water flows down from the Black Hills, which again is the highest point in between the Rocky Mountains and the Alps, that water and any contamination that happens in the Black Hills eventually ends up on our reservations down south. They also have a treaty obligation and right. The difficulty is, you're right, so often the reservation and our leaders from the tribal governments, they are caught up in continuous emergencies and the crisis and the day-to-day struggle that takes place on the reservation. So we have to make a lot of noise. We have to have these events like this. We have to reach out to our leaders one-on-one, and we also have to encourage them when they do well. Over at this meeting, it was a phenomenal thing where even the people who are at that customer meeting says, the tribal government's more organized than the United States Forest Service. And it was true, but we all had a good laugh because we did not see that coming. And we had one of our tribal leaders saying, you are in for a fight. And we had Ryman Lebeau right over here. He said, as the leader of Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe, he says, I am here as a courtesy to the federal government. But you have a right to deal, you have to deal with us from nation to nation. So we have to remind them of their obligations, we have to remind them of their duty, and we have to encourage them to join this fight and to lead.
Hamadak Yapi, Nicotil Sinamat Yapi, Chatea Washington Apechizapolo. I'm not feeling too good today. I wanted to come to this meeting and I wanted to answer that question because I do think on this issue, many of the tribes care deeply about this issue. They care deeply about this issue, and some of the tribes have been engaged, and they have already submitted comments. They've submitted comments to the federal government, and when the tribes submit comments to the federal government, it changes the situation, because the tribes have a unique relationship with the federal government, because all of a sudden when tribes submit the comments, then the Department of Interior has a trust responsibility to respond. And right now, because of who's in the administration, not just the Lakotas, but Indian people have a lot of champions inside of POI right now. It's for a short period of time. But they really need our tribes to continue commenting and to continue to go to all the consultations, because there is warriors that are inside of POI who are fighting for landback, who are fighting to protect water, and that's the only reason why some of them are there. But what gives them the fuel, what gives them the ability to advocate inside the federal government, is when tribes do official responses. And as tribal members, as grassroots people, as citizens, it's our job to organize. It's our job to organize and support our tribal leaders and our treaty council leaders and all the different types of leaders that we have amongst our people to advocate. Sometimes that means we're helping them write stuff. It means that we're helping feed information to them, because they're dealing with, Head Start, roads, impeachments, all the things that are happening at the tribal council levels. And I would say that in our efforts, the tribes have been responsive, especially Pine Ridge, Rosebud, Cheyenne River. Those tribes take upon the responsibility of fighting in the HeSapa. The other place that's important to engage is not just tribal leaders, but the tribal historic preservation officers, the TIPOs, because they will come out to these meetings. They will come out there. And in many of these meetings, you'll see the fifth member of the tribes. You'll see the TIPOs. You'll see them coming to these meetings because they care, because they carry that responsibility. And so I know that we wish that the tribes would support more of what's happening, in the citizens in Rapid City with the challenges that we have, but we have to meet them halfway. We have to continue to advocate for them. And so But on this particular issue, this is a way for us to do that. And I see them being active, but to your point and what you said, we have to keep the pressure on them, because there's many people walking every single day into all the different tribal headquarters and saying, this is our priority, this is our priority. We have to keep saying, HeSapa is the priority of the Lakota people.
Okay, any other questions? I'll come out to you so everybody can hear. All right, we got one.
Okay, my question is about, you talked about helping our tribal representatives and tribal governments to sort of help them to facilitate the process for us. So I like to be, think more solution oriented than bringing a problem to someone who's in power, in a position of power. Is there, how do you see a person like me presenting a solution, just a normal layperson, to a tribal government officer? What would that conversation look like?
I would encourage you to call or make an appointment and treat your tribal leaders like a regular human being with a pulse. Call them and arrange a meeting, and if they don't accept it, call again. You'll probably have to call 4 or 5 times before you get them to somebody, to be honest. But persistence is the key, because IRA government, we oftentimes think that the dysfunction that can happen within it sometimes is like the system going wrong. No, it's working correctly. It's functioning exactly the way it is supposed to. And so that is part of the unfair burden that is placed on us to climb out of our own colonization. We have to put in that extra effort, and as Nick said, keep the pressure on. And for us, it's just kind of a fact of life that it takes way more effort than it would for a regular American for us to be heard. And so if you have solutions, organize the people around you and go together. There's another way to go about it. Come and talk to us. Maybe we'll go with you. But just do it. Do it. Don't treat it like it's the type of thing where if you don't know all the formal processes that you can't intervene in this and affect change. And in fact, oftentimes, it's the people who are bound up by a knowledge of process who kind of kick the door in and create change. Kick the door in.
Grab them at the basketball game.
Hey, she said grab them at the basketball game, shake them.
Great Plains Tribal Chairman are going to be meeting at the Hilton during Al-Nai.
All right, I'll get to the next question here.
The grocery store.
Okay, are you familiar with, everybody's familiar with the United States Constitution, right? Okay, dig it up and look at Article 6, Section 2, and this is where we shorten it to the treaties are the supreme law of the land. There's also other, what do you call it, inner. Okay, so dig up your U.S. Constitution, Article 6, Section 2, Pilana.
Thank you. Another question. Here we go. I'm going to just run all around here like it's normal to do. Do it like it's normal.
Cheese buffalo, Lila Diawachin Kapalo, Iuha, Kola Iuha Chicha, Chase Iron Eyes Macha. I just wanted to ask something related to the question about tribal governments, because I've been proximate to tribal governments for about 16, 17 years since I got out of law school a long time ago. And Nick is right that tribal governments, even though they're organized according to, a different system, the English language system, we still look to a body politic for authority because we have our own kinship and other leadership systems. But I think the question is how to get them involved. Just the fact that Indian is asserting itself now, and Indian is a reality here, the collective. I remember the only time I ever came to Rapid City was for protest or for some injustice that had happened to one of our people, you know, for the past 11 years. That's all I've ever really come to Rapid City for, from Standing Rock or from Pine Ridge, wherever. You know, I grew up on Standing Rock, but I live on the Pine Ridge now. And what is possible here, just in the number of people that I see here tonight, represents something very, very strong, something that has tremendous potential. And so not only Nick, but Mark and Taylor and the other organizers that are here. Chante is here, Jean and Cheryl are here, you know, Carla is here. I see a lot of Unchi, Regina Brave, the last woman standing at Standing Rock. Hilo, you know, they're here. The people are here, and the strength of our people is represented here. I have respect for those tribal governments, but what is represented here, there are more Lakota living in Mini Luzahan, Toahen, or as much, just as much, as the reservations that from where we came at some point. You know, some of us have been in Rapid or other cities for a long time. But I want to ask maybe Taylor, whoever it's appropriately addressed to, you know, to keep track of everyone here. We need everyone's emails, phone numbers, that kind of organizing potential. I just want to ask about the commitment, the ideas, some of the things that can go forward, because there's a whole bunch of ways we could, here, Rapid City could be its own, I don't want to even say like a tribal nation, but its own sovereign presence, its own sovereign identity. We have an international character about us, and a lot of people have commitment related to the defense and protection of water, sacred sites, and land. And so it's really good to see, and I just wanted to ask the question about, you know, what else can we do to follow up on the energy? Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. To sort of answer the question, we have the registration in front, and if you did not sign in, please do, and that will be the easiest way to stay informed about these issues as we work on them. And also, this was great, but we're going to do a bunch more of these, and they're going to start to come with actionable items. There will be follow-ups to these. And so, as great as this is, as fantastic as this evening has been, it is a beginning to a much bigger future of these. And now we're going to go to our next question.
Hello, it's not a question. I just want to have input because I'm not from Rapid City, but listening to some of the things that that were shared with us is real interesting. I really appreciate facts and to listen to what's going on with the mining here in the Black Hills, and then pairing that with the question that was asked. How do we get the tribal council involved to support these ideas? I've been lobbying our council for donor years for all kinds of different things. But the things about it is that literally, and I'm not saying they're dumb, I'm not saying they're stupid. What I'm saying is the portal to the power there is the same as the outlets that are in Washington, D.C. The tribal, and I think it was Nick mentioned it, or one of you guys mentioned it. The IRA government is a model of the United States government. So of course, when we go to plug in there, they're going to fit that outlet. And so we need to think about that, and then we have to consider that everything happens for a reason. And when they sign these treaties, we use that Chanupa. And that Chanupa is power. Iwakan, they made that they call it Woap Iwakan, that sacred paper, that treaty. And so, whether they realize it or not, the Washichus are bound by that power. But within that power is guidance and direction. And if the spirits that work through that Chanupa felt that the IRA government was going to be the end of the Indians, the end of their children, the IRA government system would have never happened. We would be doing something totally different now. But in these last couple of years, in the last couple of gatherings that I've talked to, I've attended and I've heard people talk about it, I'm starting to realize that the tribal governments being utilized by the treaty people is starting to make more sense. But they're not going to sit down and they're not going to discuss it. They're not going to sit down and write out a document. They're not going to step up and address it. But if a room full of young people like this, educated young people, can sit down and draft up a paper that all they have to do is put their signature on, you're going to get a lot more participation by tribal councils. And you can use those tribal council signatures on your documents. And when we address the issues of mining and address the issues of extraction or even the overall violations of our treaties, and these are just my thoughts and these are just suggestions, we can start to utilize those signed documents also when we go and sit with the county commissioners, when we go and sit with our state district representatives, because it was up to the NODAPO meeting a couple of weeks ago up in Bismarck. And there was a councilman that stood up and said something that I never thought about. When he said he went the last uranium, or the last DAPO meeting he went to in Bismarck regarding the replacement of that line from going north of Bismarck to down to north of Standing Rock. He said, when I went in there, I was looking for my Senate representative. Where was my state senator to represent my voice? I'm a constituent, even though I'm a Lakota and I belong to a different nation. I'm what do they call when you're a member of a citizen. He said, I'm dual citizenship. So even though I'm an Indian, I still vote in the county. I vote in the state. And these issues that are affecting all of us, I would like my state representative to represent my voice when he goes before the governor, because the governor is going to go before the president at some point. And so we start to break this down and look at some possibilities that in our fervor to get where we're going, we kind of overlook these. And they're not the solution and they're not the cure-all, but they're part of the solution and they're part of the cure. Because we need those alliances of non-Indian people, that people that are already established here in the Black Hills as citizens. We need to include them, and they are constituents of Senate representatives, of state Senate representatives, and they have ties to Congress and like that and stuff. So we have to make sure like this, because you're not going to gather a bunch of non-Indians on a reservation. All of those guys are there just to take what they got. And then the other thing is, in this whole water situation, Cheyenne River, the refuse from the Black Hills runs down north of the hills, and it runs into the Cheyenne River. And that Cheyenne River runs down to the Cheyenne River Sioux Reservation. And that's our water source. In the 40s, the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe developed what they call the Fox Ridge Water Distribution Company, but they couldn't maintain it. So by 1978, they signed a lease agreement with Tri-County Water Distribution Company, and they took over the whole distribution of the redevelopment and distribution of all of the consumable water on the reservation. Okay, so the guy that's running it, Herb Fisher, he's been there from just about from the get-go. And then Tri-County transitioned into Mini-Wash State. But in their bylaws, if they fail as a non-profit water organization, water company, then all of their assets go to the next nearest qualified non-profit water distribution company, which is Mini-Wash State. Okay, but in the meantime, they wreaked havoc with right-of-way to lay that pipeline, and they've also manipulated to the point where any decision made on that water happens at Timber Lake in their board meetings. But Timber Lake is situated where you don't get no community members clear from Bridger. It's over 70 miles to Timber Lake. And to come from Blackfoot, it's only about, maybe about 20, 30 miles, but it's a round trip on gravel. So the only ones that really show up at those meetings are a few non-Indian customers for the water. And so they pretty much govern and make decisions that are only supposed to be made by Congress regarding this water, because this water is a treaty stipulation and we're supposed to have control of that. But we've lost total control of that. So I made a little effort to take them to court. We went to tribal court. The judge laughed me off, but the guy said, and let me tell you this first, when they first turned this over to Tri-County, the tribe gave them 109 billion gallons of water annually to use for the distribution. And after I got tossed out of court, the guy is leaving, and over his shoulder, and he laughs and he says, "Oh, by the way, Mr. Lafferty, right now we're at free flow." So they don't have to keep track of how much water they're taking out of Cheyenne River. But another public statement he said was that, "By God, Mr. Lafferty, if I have it my way, this pipeline is going to run all the way out to the Black Hills, and we're going to sell our water to the Black Hills." So basically, we just become a cleaning service because they'll pipeline it here to the Black Hills without our permission. The Black Hills people will consume it, and then they'll sewage it back into the water, and the water will run down back to Eagle Butte. So in order to, I guess, answer that question, is to get together like this as interested parties, get educated people together that have an understanding of the land laws, the treaty laws, water laws, and write up a document. Pick a delegation, it could even be just 1 or 2 people. Go in there to the tribal councils and explain the program and say, all you need is, we just need your signature to support us. And they'll do it. That's how simple it is, because they won't do it on their own. So thank you for listening, but that's something to think about, and I hope it kind of helps add to the situation here. Ilamian.
Congratulations, Joe Rafferty. Just wanted to highlight one of the comments that stuck out right in my head as you were talking is about still protecting the waters of the Missouri River and the threat that they want to pipe that water all the way out here for use. So they can feel like right now there's some of the people are thinking that if the water of the Black Hills gets contaminated or if there's not enough of it for endless expansion, they're just going to try to pipe it in from another location to service those needs. All right, Joe, thank you for bringing that up. It's a really good point. We have a missing phone. It's passcode protected, so it's not going to do you no good. But if anybody is missing a phone, it's got 1% charge.
It's a message popped up on it saying that Victor wants his phone back. Anybody named Victor and don't have your phone?
Where's Thomas?
Hey, Victor. Anyway, all right. Cool. Back to the wow. This one says, "Just bring back my phone. That's my life." I'll put this back. Wow, this is Victor's life. I hold it in my hands. All right. Any other questions or things we want to control? Okay, here we go. Oh, okay. Actually, we are about 5 minutes from our time.
Are we 5 minutes overdue? I just want to say one thing. We are still here. Start marching again. Maybe we need that to open up our tribal chairmen, their association, their lives, you know. We are here. They thought they tried to get rid of us. They can never get rid of us. We are here. I see our children running around with their long hair and at the drum. We are here. And we need to tell our tribal chairman that. They use us. They use our numbers for funding, but they do not help us here, the urban Indians. They told me to go back from where you come from. Good God, my own people tell me that. I'd like to see a roundtable discussion on some of these issues we've talked about tonight. I don't know where to have it and that, but before the Tribal Chairman's Association, I want to go there with a group, and I'll bring my bow and arrow. Go.
All right, thank you very much. All right, we have one more final very exciting raffle, and so at this time, what's? Oh, wait.
All right, the moment we've all been waiting for tonight. I could gonna raffle this buffalo robe.
Wait.
All right, if you have your tickets, it's 530058. Oh, and a false alarm back there. 530058. Going once, last call. 530058. All right, on to the next ticket. Next number is 530094. 530094. Last call, 530094. All right. The next ticket. Come on, we gotta get a winner. 530039. 530039. All right. Yeah, really shake that box good, Taylor. Let's get a winner. All right, next number. 530102. 530102. Two, we have a winner.
All right, everybody, big congratulatory round of applause for Trey.
All right. Before we end here, just want to again thank everybody for coming, friends, relatives, everyone that supports this idea of protecting the HeSapa. Thank you again, and we hope to see you at the next one.